Hello guys, me Super back with another video, and today I want to talk about the first 3 seasons of The Flash. I'll give my review, all that stuff. Just to know my history with the Arrowverse, I watched I think all the crossovers. And recently I watched the first I think like 6.5 seasons of The Flash. Never I quit. But so yeah. But I'm rewatching them, so yeah, I just watched the first 3 seasons. I'm gonna give a review for every 3 seasons when I'm rewatching them, so yeah, watch/rewatch, but yeah, I did watch the first season, like I said, so yeah. I'm just starting off here, with season 1. I think that season 1 was really good. I think that is probably the best of them all, and there is, like, there are some things, like, for example, the costumes, um, some of the more cheesy acting, some of that stuff, yeah. I think it's a really good season. I think the Reverse Flash is a great villain, and Grant Gustin just plays the role of Barry Allen like perfectly. So yeah. There aren't really many flaws with this season. Like I said, the costumes. There are minor nitpicks you could go through, but also in this season, I usually do like the way they use villains against Barry. Cold is like his weakness. That's Captain Cold. Well, that's why Captain Cold's a good villain. He can't just super fastly punch the metal guy because he turns metal. The lightning guy takes away his powers. So yeah, Rainbow Raider gets him angry, which makes him fight. Green Arrow, which I thought was a really good crossover episode, where he fights Green Arrow. So yeah, most of the villains that he faces, and there are some exceptions where they're not particularly good, but they're also still pretty good, like Heatwave and stuff. They're also still pretty credible threats to them. And I think they found a very interesting way to use the villain of the week and make him a credible threat to Barry. Also, one more thing, I think there was a cut episode because there's this guy with laser eyes, and in an episode where Snart has to deport all the metahumans they've got so far, but you've never seen this guy before, so I think that was a cut episode that was originally supposed to be there, but then eventually got cut. So yeah, that's odd. Yeah. And I like how you get Eddie, who's obviously the rival, and you obviously know that Iris has to either break up with him or he's gonna die. I like how you actually like the character, so it's actually pretty sad when he dies. And I do like how they play the mystery of Reverse Flash well, because there's really only two. There's like two big contenders who you think it could be. Is either Harrison Wells, who it ends up being. By the way, spoilers for the first 3 seasons. Harrison Wells, who it ends up being, and because he's from the future and he's acting pretty suspicious. So yeah, or Eddie Thawne, because he's Thawne. So yeah, but then you get Reverse Flash in the room with both of them, but then it's still ultimately Harrison Wells. So yeah, that was really cool twist. I like how I really like the episode where Barry resets everything. That's so interesting because it's like, oh my god, what is happening? Because Reverse Flash reveals himself as Cisco, then he kills Cisco, and then Barry reveals himself to Iris. He tells her he tells her he loves her. Joe gets a broken leg. The city almost gets like nuked essentially, and then but then he resets it, which is really cool. Also I like all the supporting cast. Cisco is really fun. Caitlin's also really good. Iris is really good in this season. Anyways, this is my thoughts on the first season, and then on to the second season. On to the second season. Now, the second season out of the first 3 seasons that I watched is probably my least favorite. Not that doesn't mean that it's not good. It's still really good, but it's just not as good. I do like the plot of them having to travel to the other Earth, meeting here. And then I really like Zoom. Zoom's a really menacing villain. And I like how they take the comic knowledge you have of of Jay Garrick, because he's in the universe Jay Garrick, so you think that he's just Jay Garrick, but then it's actually Hunter Zolomon Zoom. Even if Zoom is Wally West's arch enemy, I still really like the thing, and I like how he's essentially just a version of Barry, who Henry Allen, if Henry Allen did actually kill kill Nora instead of instead of like Reverse Flash doing it. So yeah, I think that was really interesting. And then he becomes a serial killer and he gets the electric chair and stuff. I like how he was obsessive about Caitlin too. And then I like the twist that John Wesley Shipp, who played Henry Ellen, he also played the version of the Flash in the '90s show. I like the twist that he was actually Jay Garrick. And then yeah, so yeah, ultimately I do really like the season. I like the fact that we get Killer Frost in here, and it's like, Caitlin might turn into Killer Frost and stuff. But yeah, I really like that. So yeah, just think about more stuff. Yeah, I think that, like I said, Zoom's a really menacing villain. I like how he kills Henry Allen. He then he like when he comes in, I think the episode was called Enter Zoom. He just kicks Barry's ass. He like goes around the city being like, "This is your hero." He's weak. I beat him, and yeah, and Tony Todd just really did the voice good too. R.I.P. But yeah, so I really liked this season. It wasn't as good as the first season. It wasn't as good as the third, but I still really like the season. Sorry guys, I had to pause the video for a second, but yeah. But yeah, I like how Zoom's a really massive villain. And yeah, I like how Barry, he's just he's tired of all this stuff. With Jay, it really with first Harrison Wells being Eobard Thawne and betraying him, and then also I really like Patty in this season. Patty's a really good character. Harrison Wells, but betraying him in the first season, and then the second season he just gets pissed and he breaks the helmet because they think that Jay died, and he breaks the cabinet because when he finds out that he's Zoom. That was a really cool moment. Because he's just so pissed and tired of this shit. It really gives up a good reason of why he would go and create Flashpoint. Now I think that they really shouldn't have done Flashpoint in this universe. I think it's good for season 3, not the actual event. We'll talk about the event, but not the actual event, but what it actually leaves in season 3. But because in the first season, it almost seems like they're doing Flashpoint because he's like in the last episode, everybody's like, Barry, go back, save your mom. You deserve this because you're the Flash. That was all good, but then it turns out, but then when he actually gets there, he decides not to, so I think that they shouldn't have done that because that's like a really good moment. Like he doesn't actually do Flashpoint. That's a really good moment. So just think about so just I did try to watch Arrow multiple times. I could never get past the first season though. I don't know why it was. It just never clicked. I just never liked it as much. Like I just couldn't click with it like I click with Flash. It's not like a bad show. I just couldn't click with it like I click with the Flash. You know what I mean? So yeah. I just couldn't get into it. I got into the Flash. So yeah, but like I said, all this stuff gives a really good reason of why he would do that. His father died. Then he sees his father's doppelganger. Both his mentors betrayed him. His friend might turn into one of his best friends might turn into an evil supervillain. Cisco has powers and all that stuff. Ronnie's dead. There's all these Eddie's dead. There's all these big things that would eventually lead to him doing Flashpoint. So yeah. But yes, and so now on to season 3. Now this is probably one I have the most to talk about because of the fact that because it's the one I watched most recently. So yeah, just talking about started off with Flashpoint. I think that Flashpoint was probably a disappointment because it's not at all accurate to the Flashpoint of the comics. Because first off, it's one episode, and really the big difference is that Barry has parents, and he barely knows Iris. They just used to know each other when they were little kids, and that Wally is the Kid Flash, and and he's with he's working as a crime fighting duo with Iris, and Joe's a depressed alcoholic. So yeah. And Cisco, I guess, owns a company, and she's, I think Caitlin's a pet thing or something. I don't know. I forget what Caitlin was, but yeah. Yeah. I think that we could use, for example, I think that if, Green Arrow's dad, because like I said, I watched a little bit of the first season of Arrow, tried to watch it multiple times, so yeah. If like Green Arrow's dad was like a version of Green Arrow that continuously kills, very similar to as a counterpart to Thomas Wayne becoming Batman with a Batman that kills with guns and stuff. So yeah, yeah, so yeah, and I think that it's just overall it's just pretty disappointing thing, but yeah. So yeah, anyways, but yeah, after that, they do set it up in a good place where I really I like after Flashpoint mostly because, like I said, Flashpoint was kind of a disappointment, but ultimately I think that was still a really cool thing with Flashpoint and all that stuff. So yeah, but so yeah, like after Flashpoint, I think that's where the good stuff comes in, because I like the whole plot of alchemy, given the people who had powers during Flashpoint powers, and then ultimately Wally West, and there's a feeling of dread that Wally's getting powers, because Jesse got powers and they were hit with the same thing, and then alchemy with Julian and stuff, and Killer Frost, and this feeling of dread that Killer Frost is turning evil, and there's it's hard to stop him. And then I like the episode Killer Frost where she does go full evil, and she tries to reverse her powers, but then she ultimately comes back at the end, and it's like, okay, so yeah, that's good. But then then there's signs of stuff happening and stuff, and then ultimately the episode where also side note, I love HR. HR is like a really good character. He's a great character in the show. But yeah. Then you see the episode of Barry accidentally time traveling to the future and seeing Iris get killed by Savitar. That's like such an awesome moment because it leaves this feeling of dread that they have to change the future, and everything is going the exact way it was in the future. Killer Frost turns evil, all this stuff. So yeah, so yeah, and it's a really dark feeling of dread, like, oh my god, Iris is gonna die, and it's really scary, and yeah, like it's just really feeling dread, and then yeah, and all the Killer Frost stuff is also great because like the emotional stuff, like it's pretty dark to see Caitlin, who you knew for the past 3 seasons, just turn into this evil supervillain, which I just wish they went all away with, and she'd she actually killed somebody, and then ultimately she could still have a redemption arc where she dies killing Savitar, which I think would have been better. Yeah, because after this season, they just fumble Killer Frost in so many ways. From what I've seen already, they just fumble Killer Frost out of this season. I really like season 4, but they fumble. I know they fumble Killer Frost in that they make a stupid retcon about about multiple personality disorder, which is it makes season 3 both worse and it's just stupid. I really like the fact that she goes full evil. She tries to kill Cisco, and then I do like her redeeming herself at the end because that's what you need to do when you know her. But ultimately, I think Savitar should have killed her while she killed Savitar. And I think that would have been ultimately made like she stabs him with an icicle, and then he stabs her, and then they both die. So that way she could still die here without being fully redeemed. So yeah, that was a really But yeah, I really liked all the Killer Frost stuff in this season. Like I said, it was just really good to see this character that you knew for the first 3 seasons go full evil. So and then all the characters' reaction to like Cisco, even Cisco, Barry, even Julian. It was just such a great thing. So that even if Julian at the start of the show did come off as a bit of a dick, So it's all just really great stuff, and I love the twist that Savitar is actually another version of Barry Allen. He's future Flash from the comics. That was a really cool twist and stuff. was really cool. Like for the first 3 seasons at least, they have great villain reveals. The first season, because they never outright spell out who it is. Because like for example, it's hard to not fall into that trap with comic book projects. If you're adapting a character from a comic book and you're making a mystery of who they are, a lot of people know who they are because they know the comic book characters, and that's very complicated. And just like you usually like it, but then you also know who he is. It's a caveat about it. But I like the way they manipulate. Harrison Wells. You don't know, he's not a comic book character, but he seems suspicious. And then and then Eddie Thawne. You don't know who he is, but his name is Thawne. So, but then ultimately it is Harrison Wells, and then. In the second season, he uses Jay Garrick. You think that that's just Jay Garrick, but it's actually Hunter Zoltman, and he's actually Zoom. That's a really cool thing. And then and then the third season, Savitar isn't who Future Flash is in the comic. In the comics, it's Future Flash is Future Flash, and Savitar is another character. So yeah, and you do get the little hint line of when he's possessing Julian's body. He's like, I'm the Future Flash, which is like, oh my, he's just an adaptation of Future Flash in the comics, even as like, Blue Lightning and stuff. So yeah, I really like the mysteries in the season, even if it was kind of stupid that he just died from getting shot by Iris. Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, those just are my thoughts on this. I'll look at one more thing. I think that the ending's kind of stupid. I don't like the ending because, first off, it immediately gets undone in the next season. He goes, at the end of the season, he goes into the Speed Force because there's a Speed Force storm, and that's the only way to save him. Which, yeah, that sets up other speedsters in the universe. So I don't think they really executed that from at least what I've seen. That sets up so many speedsters, like, so many characters in Central City could now just be a speedster. You don't need to explain any origin story. You don't need to see them get hit by anything, dark matter, or anything. They could just have gotten that from that storm, which I think probably was their intention, but I don't think they really executed on that. And one side note, I like how planned out the CW Flashes, because you could tell that they planned out the next season. For example, they planned out. For example, for the first season, they always had it planned out that eventually Barry would get the white in his logo. With season 2, they had it more so planned out that eventually Killer Frost would turn into, Caitlin would turn to Killer Frost, and Flashpoint and all that stuff would happen in the next season. And then with the final one, third season, they have at a certain point when Barry goes to the future, he meets another version of Barry, and it's all this thing about how he doesn't want to do anything, but then at the end he wears the suit from season 4, which is so it's having that planned out. And there's even a line where Sabotage is like, I remember this is what we used to defeat DeVoe, and he's like, DeVoe? He's like, oh, we haven't fought him yet, and that's the villain in season 4, the Thinker DeVoe. But yeah, it's like, so I really like how planned out it is. But yeah, I think that the ending is stupid, like, because, it sets up Wally to be the next Flash. But then, instantly, the next season, as, like, just, like, right then, Barry gets out of the Speed Force, like, so quick, so, and I'm not sad about that. I like the fact that Barry gets out of the Speed Force fast. I'm happy about that fact. I like, because, Barry's the main character of the show. But, it's kind of like, I like this planned out thing, like I said, but it seems like they didn't really have that too well planned out, because you need Barry Allen, but you just set up that essentially Barry Allen just essentially died, and you could get him back, but still, I feel like they were setting up for season 4. They were gonna have Wally be the Flash, and then at the end Barry Allen was gonna get back out, but yeah. Because it's an emotional moment, but he's gonna get out next season, so yeah. But yeah, those are just my thoughts on the first 3 seasons of The Flash. And I will try to at least do. I don't know if I'll actually make it past the entire show. I hope I can, but I will at least try to do, season 4 through 6, and then, which I've seen, and then seasons 7 through 9, which I have seen like half of season 7, I think. I stopped watching about like halfway through the Godspeeds arc, I think, And yeah, at that point it just became a joke of itself. Like, not try to spoil my Tomb review, but Mirror Monarch is just a sex swap version of Mirror Master. Was this a sex swap version of the second Mirror Master? All that stupid stuff. Ralph, them firing Ralph for stupid, a couple tweets that he made, years before, man. Like, what were they thinking? It's just such stupid bullshit. Especially because Ralph was such a good character too. Whatever. Like, they focus just like they really, they really just get it gets like a much worse of a show when the seasons go on. Because I think that's just brief oversight of what I've seen. Season 4 is really good. Like, first 4 seasons of Flash, great. Season 5 I think is like mid okay. It's like fine, I guess. But then this is what I remember. Maybe it's gonna be different. But then season 6 I think was pretty bad. And then from what I've seen in season 7, I think that was pretty bad too. So yeah. But yeah, anyways, those are just my thoughts on the first season of The Flash. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye.